think the creative side allows us to explore, to play, as we've been talking about, right? But to also kind of discover what else there could be out there. And once we're in that energy, or we're inviting that kind of energy to take over, then I feel that's where the opportunities will present themselves.
Welcome to Soul-Led Creative Women, a podcast for women seeking bold, brave tools to navigate life's challenges. I'm Sam Horton, and in this episode I talk with Sabrina Del Duca. We talk about all things dance, creativity, and recovering from burnout. Enjoy. So today I have Sabrina Del Duca with me. Sabrina is a confidence coach and a dance educator. In 2019, she took a huge risk following a burnout, which was the result of feeling disconnected from her 10-year corporate career in advertising. Sabrina left her safe, secure job with no backup plan and began her journey of self-discovery to write her next chapter in life. Combining her years of experience teaching dance, leading projects, and design strategies to get results, Sabrina started her own coaching company in 2020, empowering you to unlock your potential, set meaningful goals, and navigate life's challenges with resilience and courage, just like she did. She encourages you to rewrite your life and start this new and exciting chapter with confidence. Sabrina has also launched her podcast, Get Into Flow, in 2022, using her voice and love for public speaking to provide practical tools to help shift your mindset and take inspired action. So welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you so much, Samantha. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great to be talking. So today we're going to be talking about surviving burnout and thriving using creativity and dance. So let's just start, first of all, Sabrina, with burnout. Tell us about what burnout looked like for you.
For me, it was a total loss of self. I think that's the best way I could describe it, because once it was brought to my attention that it was a burnout, because I didn't realize it at the time, it still wasn't spoken about as candidly as it is today. And I'm so happy that that's changed, because we all experience it. I feel like I even experienced it on a small scale before the big burnout. So there are common symptoms. The most common would be the fatigue, the lack of motivation. But for me, that disconnect and loss of self was huge, because then it started trickling into my personal life. So for example, and I love to give this example because that's when I really realized it was a problem. I remember distinctly sitting with a group of friends out for dinner and drinks. That was a very fun time that I would often participate and engage in conversation. And I can just picture, and I have this vivid illustration of myself sitting there, not saying a word, being totally numb, totally disconnected. I didn't even know who I was anymore. I couldn't even participate in conversations with my friends who I've known for years. That's when I knew there was a problem, because I had lost myself.
So was that the real turning point then, that particular event?
That's what began the turning point, because I started to ask myself questions of what's wrong. The answer to that question was always, I need a break, or I need a vacation. I'm working too hard. It was never, you need to change careers. Because I think that's the harder question, the question that if we do ask that to ourselves, we don't necessarily want to hear the answer, and we know that answer. Because for me, 10-year career in advertising, I mean, that was amazing. And it was. And I loved my career. It was, on paper, the best career ever. So on top of feeling disconnected and feeling like maybe this isn't right for me anymore, there was guilt and there was shame. How could I possibly feel this way? I have this amazing job. But I think what I needed to ask myself was, first off, do I still feel inspired where I am? And if I thought back to the beginning of my advertising career, where there was a lot of stress, but I found my way, and I used that as fuel. Fast forward to year 8 and 9, there was still stress because the industry itself is stressful, but it was no longer fueling me. I was looking for ways out, and I was always in need of help, and found myself really just scrambling. And there were so many things that now in hindsight, I'm like, "You know what? I should have left a long time ago,"
Mm.
like a long time
Yeah.
before. But the reality was that I got to a point where I had outgrown my career
Mm.
because what used to fuel me and inspire me no longer did. And it was my boss who gave me the permission to see that perspective, to see that different point of view, and to say, you know what? Your time here has been great and you've contributed in an amazing way, but maybe now it's time to discover something new. And it had never been brought to my attention like that. Because even for me, the fatigue, the burnout, the
Mm.
solution that I originally thought is okay, well, I'll go on medical leave for a few months and then I'll come back. But again, in having those conversations with my superiors, who I totally trust and respect, they brought to my attention once again. But when you come back, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out if anyone's in that situation, right? If it is just a break that you need to recharge and take those few months off, great. And you can do that, wonderful. But then if you realize that once you come back, you're going to be just put right back into that same
Mm.
situation, that's when you need to perhaps reevaluate, is this job, is this career still aligned with what I want and what
Mm.
I value? And I think that we need to ask ourselves that question more often and
Mm.
not just take for granted that we make a decision once, that we commit to a career and then we're in it for life. We
Yeah.
evolve as humans, we grow, we change, we want different things. And I think it's totally normal and totally valid to start asking yourself those questions when you start to feel those feelings of disconnect of like, "Ooh, I don't enjoy this
Mm.
anymore." And it's just I don't enjoy this anymore because it's a stressful time and that's okay. But overall, like for me, it was the nature of the job that I no longer enjoyed.
Mm.
And those
'Cause
are those
it's
hard questions that I mentioned.
'Cause that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not good at your job, right? Like, you can actually be
Right.
really awesome at your job and really good at it, but, I think what you're talking about, I'm just gonna mirror back to you, it actually becomes a bit of an inner conflict, right? So
Absolutely.
there's something just not right. It's like a restlessness and an inner conflict, which can be
Yes.
very confusing, right? Because you're actually still really good at your job. Can you relate
Absolutely,
to
yeah,
that,
it is
Sabrina?
confusing. Yes, very confusing because burnout even happens when you're in a positive situation. So burnout is not only related to the negative disconnect, but I feel like I've heard a lot of stories where young mothers are super happy to be a mother, but also want to continue in their job. And they're just giving so much being that motherly figure that they end up burning out because they're not taking time for themselves or they're not listening within and really hearing what their body needs. So I think burnout looks different for everybody,
Mm,
but overall, it's an overwhelming feeling that you can't quite do it all, if
mm.
I could say it in those words,
And
right?
d and do you think that our default response is often to do more, right? So
Yes.
if you're not feeling like if you feel like something's wrong, well, let's just do more of it, right? Let's just overdo, overstrive,
Oh, yeah.
overachieve. It becomes a bit of a default.
It does. It does, especially for recovering perfectionists
Mm,
like myself,
mm,
right?
mm,
Because that inner conflict, and I think that's a great way to describe it, is why you're asking yourself, "Why am I not enjoying what I'm doing? I'm good at what I'm doing. I'm
mm,
good at my job. So what else can I do to prove to myself that I'm good at my job?" So you end up doing more, like you're
yeah,
saying, right? So it's that vicious cycle.
mm,
But for me, that disconnect actually led me to start to not be good at my job anymore
yeah,
because I
okay,
ended up staying in it too long in that feeling of burnout and I
mm,
became lost.
yeah,
And so that's when, again, it was like inevitable that a change needed to happen because I wasn't even doing my job properly
okay.
because I was
And
so unmotivated.
And do you think that sort of the overcompensation, if you like, where you are sort of just trying to do more because, you have this inner conflict, and the flip side of that is then sort of exhaustion, right? And so I think you
Absolutely.
just sort of touched on it just briefly before, but the flip side of that overdoing, overstriving, overachieving thing is actually this kind of default behavior where when you're sort of trying to turn yourself off and you're relaxing, you're then over consuming. So it might look like over drinking, over eating, over, binging Netflix, over shopping, or it could just be procrastination, right? So just this endless loop of thinking about doing the thing and not doing it. That's a great numbing tool. What's your experience with that flip side, when you're sort of in that sort of the other side where you're not in the workspace and you're overdoing,
Mhm.
you're trying to sort of switch off.
That numbness of how can I distract myself? Definitely binging of TV shows or just kind of sitting on the couch, feeling like I have to rest, but at the same time feeling like I need to be productive. So then that inner conflict comes back of like, I'm not actually doing anything. And it being okay for me to just rest, but I feel like the overconsumption, I think that's an important point too, because we wanna distract ourselves. For me, what I actually ended up putting all my energy into was dance. I
Mm,
started a new dance style, and that kept me going because as an artist, I needed that motivation from somewhere, I needed that inspiration, so I wasn't getting it from work anymore, and so I put myself 110% in my dance, and that made me happy, at least that kept me going, and I feel like that prolonged the feeling of burnout in a good way or in a bad way. Like, it
mhm,
prolonged my decision of leaving my job because I was finding that happiness elsewhere. Had I just been in my job without that inspiration on the outside, I think I would have maybe come to a conclusion faster. So that's where the positive side kicks in of like, I should have come to a conclusion faster, but such is life.
mm.
And I learned from the situation. And we have to also see how can we learn from our experiences and make sure we don't repeat that same pattern again.
Yeah, okay, that's powerful. I really like that actually, the creativity in the dance became a distraction actually, but it's also, potentially the source of your transformation and your empowerment. So tell us a bit about that. How did you then
Mhm.
use the dance to make the big decisions?
When I threw myself in dance, I did it in a way that I was fully a student again. So, as someone who's been a dancer all her life, I specialized in ballet and jazz and hip hop. But then I discovered ballroom dancing, and so that's what I threw myself into because it was brand new for me, and I just love starting from scratch and being able to just learn from the beginning. It distracted me in the best way possible. I started competing almost immediately. I was winning, right? So it was all very, very positive, and that kept me going to a certain extent. Then, when I decided to leave my job, because that ended up happening, I did leave my job. I did not have a backup of what is my new job going to be, but it was imminent that I left my job. Like, this has to happen. I was still dancing, but then everything, the entire world paused. It was the
Okay.
exact same timing of the pandemic.
Right.
So, that was a blessing for me because it gave me a chance to actually slow down and take the time to
Mm.
heal, to dance online on my own, and I decided, let's go back to teaching a little bit because I started teaching when I was 18 years old. Very young, but also it was something that I knew I wanted to do, so I have that experience. So I said, "You know what? As a backup," and I'm doing air quotes, "backup," because it's not my full time, but, backup back then of let's go back to teaching because it's something that I know and something that I could start building on. And reconnecting with the dance and the teaching, which is my passion and my love, my first love, if I could say that, that allowed me to rediscover and reconnect to myself.
Yeah,
So that
amazing.
creativity of falling back into those beautiful movements and listening to the music that I love and rediscovering the movements that I love, that really helped me on my healing journey. And I'm
Mhm,
so grateful for that. And I feel like we know art is therapy, but dance is definitely
mhm,
therapy
mhm.
because of that movement component and because of that connection to emotion and that connection to self. And so if it wasn't for that, I think I would be telling a very different story today.
Yeah. So it's the first step then as you're describing the healing process, right? So then
Right.
that creative energy though that you're diving into and building on, how did that then guide you to shift into the work that you're doing today? I know it's like this creative curiosity where you follow the breadcrumbs, but yeah, just tell us a bit about your
Yeah.
journey and your your empowerment and evolution through that.
Absolutely. So many breadcrumbs, but it was a lot of curiosity. In that healing process, I also discovered a meditation therapy that really allows you to release your emotions. That was a huge part for me because I was someone who would not give myself permission to feel. In day-to-day life, I would use my dance for my emotion release. But in regular life, every time I felt frustration or I felt anger, I felt this or something that I didn't want to feel, I would stuff it down. So as a result, as we all do, we all have that bottleneck, if you will, of stuck emotion within us that has to come out in some way or other. And dance wasn't letting everything out. So this therapy, this meditation form allowed me to really truly release, which then allowed me to reconnect to myself even more and start asking myself questions of, okay, what do I want to do? What am I passionate about? Dance and teaching, I know that. Okay, so what is it about the teaching that I love? It's about making a difference. What was it about the advertising agency that I loved? And you know what? It was about making a difference. So the common denominator for me in all of those jobs, and even if I think back to the jobs I had earlier, what was inspiring me and motivating me was the ability to help others
Mm.
and to impact and to bring forward some information, some inspiration, and some tools. And I could see the confidence building right in front of me. And that's what I wanted to do more of. So teaching dance, no problem, go back into it. But I was like, there must be a way. There must be a way that I can impact more people, that I could do more. And that's when, during my research and talking to people, coaching, it just kept
Mm.
coming back. Like, why not go into coaching? Why not discover how that world can help you to really do what you love by guiding and inspiring others? And when I started, it was more from my experience of the career transition and helping people just not get to that rock bottom point of burnout, but start to recognize those signs that I spoke about earlier to help yourself move through into a new chapter. And I've done that for a few years. And the natural calling now, in this past few months, actually, brand new, is to really bring that mental health awareness and that support to dancers. So
Okay,
I had
awesome.
shifted. Yes. I don't know why it took this long
Yeah.
for me to
Oh, no,
realize it.
I
It
have the
was like,
same things going on too, don't worry. That's what I was gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you how intertwined is the dance with the coaching work? You know, where do they meet? And you've just explained that beautifully in terms of the future plan. But do you
yes.
use any components of creativity in the work that you do with clients? Tell us a bit about that.
With clients, I'll always offer the tool of moving their body. So if they
Mhm.
feel overwhelmed, if they feel stuck, if they feel anxious, it's like move your body. You don't have to be a professional dancer to move your body. Just put on your favorite song and have a dance party in your living room. Or even if you're sitting, move your body in whatever feels intuitive, whatever feels right. But that kind of just initial motion, I think, is very powerful. And we don't realize how moving our body can have a tremendous impact on our psychological state.
Yeah, and it can be quite fast as well, right? Because it's, it's an
Very.
immediate thing. Yeah. It's not
Yes.
something you have to dwell on or think about too much. It's immediate. Yeah.
No. Or
So
even
good.
just like go for a walk.
Mm,
If you're working on something and you feel like, "Oh, I've been sitting too long or I'm stuck, I have no more creative juice," I hit a roadblock, go for a walk.
mm,
Even around the block, right? Just a 15-minute walk will do wonders for you.
mm. And so with your ambitions then to support dancers, just my brain's ticking. So with that work, what's your sort of vision there in terms of are you helping them in their dance career or are you helping them, sort of make changes to different careers from dance or use dance to propel, tell us a bit about what your thoughts are around that.
Wow, there's so many options. Thank you.
Yes.
Things to look forward to. Where I'll begin, is helping them with their confidence.
Mm,
Confidence comes in a lot of different forms or can be used in a lot of different ways. So, for example, in the street dance community where there's a lot of freestyling, there's a lot of battles where they go against the other. There's a lot more of an artistic expression of self. You're not necessarily doing steps or choreography, but it's really you embodying the movement and the music. There is a lot of challenge around showing up, being vulnerable, having the right mindset when you're up against someone in a battle, right? So these kind of tools of mindset shifts, of reframing, of being confident within yourself and knowing what you can bring to the table no matter who's in front of you, that kind of work can kind of reaffirm the dancer within. And for commercial industry dancers, how do you prep for an audition? right? Like
Mm.
when you're learning choreography, where's the balance between executing the movement and then showing your personality through?
Mm.
And again, that all comes down to the confidence aspect or the
Mm.
self-love or the self-assurance. So it's kind of taking you from that self-doubt, whatever it is that you doubt, because we have different things that we can doubt, taking you from self-doubt to self-confidence,
Mm.
to that reassurance of you can do anything you put your mind to. You can learn a new style even when you get older, like me, or you can learn a new style at any point in
Mm.
your career, right? So it's kind of wherever they're at in their journey, in their dance evolution, I will meet them there and just either reinforce that self esteem or that layer of confidence and then encourage them to take risks, to
Mm.
take bigger chances where if you wanna make it and dance on stage with a big artist, okay, what are those risks that you have to
Mm.
take to put yourself out there to really get that experience? And if you just wanna be battling more, you wanna show yourself through your dance and really connect with your audience, how can you do that?
Mm. And that empowerment journey is obviously really about tapping into your creative essence, what makes you unique in the game, right? So,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, it's almost like a creative confidence, like it was specifically, in looking at dance. So that's very powerful. So in your work now, with clients, flipping back to sort of more of the burnout issue and less about the
Mhm,
dance, how
mhm.
do you help your clients figure out their passion and purpose and what to do next when they're facing burnout?
I always encourage them to find a little time to play. We don't play enough as much as we used to. Life is serious as we get older. We have so many responsibilities, but things like what are certain experiences that you had in your childhood that really brought you joy? Or what are certain things that you do now that you can really shut your brain off and just be in the moment and enjoy doing? What is something you've been wanting to do for so long, but just haven't got around to it? All of those kind of situations that can bring you to a place of just being present and letting go of whatever responsibility you have and just play like you did as a child, that helps you to reconnect with yourself, in my personal opinion, and to also open you up to possibilities of being curious of what else there is out there, of what else can you do, what else can you experience.
Mm.
And if someone is specifically looking for a change in career, or maybe they're happy in their career with certain changes, and then they're looking for, like, a passion on the side, like, any kind of reconnection to purpose or to passion, it would be a similar approach of, what do you enjoy doing?
Mm.
If money wasn't a question, if you had all the time in the world, what would you do with it?
Mm.
What would you do with yourself in your day to day? What would your life look like? So dream big. Like,
Mm.
how is your lifestyle? Who is that person in the near future who has the most beautiful lifestyle? How would you describe that? How can you visualize it? Where are you living? What are you doing? Are
Mm.
you waking up early to go for a run in the morning, or do you have a slow morning and you build up throughout your day? But like, what is it that you can envision for yourself and get
Mm.
really clear on how that looks and how that makes you feel?
Mm.
And once that feeling is there of like, "Oh my god, my dream life, this would be amazing," then it's like, "Okay, how can we start to make that happen? What are
Mm.
those small shifts that we can start doing?" And if it's being a morning person and getting into shape because 'cause I'm going to run in the morning, okay, how can we slightly shift our morning routine? Doesn't mean that, like, tomorrow you're gonna wake up at 5 and go for a run and do that every day. It's like, how can we just take that first step forward to start building those new habits towards being that person who lives that lifestyle that you dream of.
Mm. Yeah, it's so powerful. It's like with the play piece, I feel like it's actually play for the sake of it though, right? It's not
Yes.
play with, some kind of fixed outcome. You have to remove the attachment to the outcome, and certainly in the beginning, not try and monetize your play, right? Which I think people
Yes.
forget because we're taught to really focus on productivity and efficiency and the outcome of things. What are your thoughts around that?
Oh, thank you for saying that because it's so true. We often tie our time to our value, right? So if you spend time doing something, how can I make money off it? Or if I'm involved in this project, what is it bringing me? What's my income from it? I think we absolutely need to remove those expectations and that attachment and play just to play. When
Mm.
you were a kid and you went to play outside, were you thinking, okay, I'm going to spend 2 hours outside. How much money am I making from this? right? Like we have to remove that adult mindset. That's what we'll call it, that responsible adult mindset of how can I make sure that my time is accounted for and just make time to play. Make time to just do something that's not going to necessarily bring you anything tangible, but it's going to make you feel amazing. I think it's focusing on that benefit of allowing you to just do something for the sake of doing it and not having to have an additional reward after that.
And so in the context of burnout then, when you go on that journey, what's the most common thing you see in terms of recovery from burnout? Does it mean often a change in career, or does it mean just introducing this play and creativity into life? What are your thoughts around the most sort of common outcome that people end up with?
The most common and the most effective, I would say, is to discover your purpose or your passion.
Mm,
Not to sound cliche, but it's kind of discovering your why and what is your intention through life? What is it that you truly want in your day to day? Because through working with clients, when we go through that process, it has happened that certain clients have said, all right, I'm ready for a new career. Whereas other clients have said, you know what? I'm actually happy in my career, but I don't have enough personal time. So I need to adjust that balance there and that harmony. So it's kind of getting down to what it is that you truly want and what will make you happy and feel like you have a fulfilled, meaningful life. And if that's staying on your career path, but just adding some side play, great. Or if it's, hey, I need a whole new career, then that's up to you
mm,
as well. It's your
mm.
choice.
And taking that a bit further then, so once you've sort of figured out, where you'd like to go
Mhm.
and where your passions and your purpose, do lie, how do you help people build the confidence then to claim that and to actually take the action on it?
I love that question. Because confidence is built. Confidence is built by stepping out of your comfort zone and just taking a chance and trying. And it's about taking one step at a time. And every time you take the step, you'll see that you're able to, that you're capable, and that'll be another notch on your confidence scale. So every time you take another step forward, it's just building your confidence that you can do anything that you put your mind to, that you put your heart to, right? So I often focus on, first off, getting clear on what is it that you want, just to have that vision, to have that drive you. There's the why also. Why do you want this? And often I will encourage clients or anyone, even listening, watching now, if that why is tied to money, I highly encourage you to find a deeper reason for it. Because often the monetary drive will only get us so far. So, what is it below that? What is under the surface? What is that like root layer of desire that has you wanting this lifestyle? And remind yourself of it every day. Even create an affirmation, write it on your wall, put it on your mirror, put it somewhere on your phone, like somewhere where you're going to remember that this is why you're doing it. Because stepping out of your comfort zone and taking risks is hard. It's going to get hard. It's not going to be an easy path because it's something new. You're learning along the way. So when it does get difficult, you want to have this why as a reminder of there's a reason why I'm putting myself in this uncomfortable situation. There's a reason why I am putting certainty aside to go through with the unfamiliar because there's something that I want. So it's all about what is that why, get clear and make sure
Mhm.
that that's what's driving you. And also discovering what it is that's holding you back, because we have to start making room. If you have like self-sabotaging behavior or limiting beliefs, we start to shift those. And then really it's about what is that first step? And I encourage my clients to say, you don't have to have it all figured out. Often we feel like we need to have the entire roadmap from A to Z to be able to know where we're going, all those little steps to then take that first step. But no, because it's impossible to have it all figured out.
Mm,
Let's get curious and leave ourselves open to the possibility that the path will reveal itself once we step onto it.
mhm.
So, what is that first step that you can take with confidence? And it's usually a small step. It's maybe a hard step because it's different, but it doesn't have to be a huge step. So a small step. Is it making a phone call? Is it doing some research? Is it, waking up a little earlier? So you set your alarm a little earlier, right? Like, what does that first step look like? And then from there, we build.
Mm.
And then as we go through is where the confidence builds as well.
I think we sometimes think it has to be an all or nothing thing, right? So, like, not everyone has to jump off the cliff. I kind of jumped off the cliff. I think you kind of jumped off the cliff,
Yeah, I did.
but you don't have to jump off the cliff.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, one small step at a time. I love that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's literally just putting one foot in front of the other, right?
Yes. Which, when we say it that way, it's less scary because this experience will be scary because it's new. So it's normal that your body is going to be in resistance because it's doing something against what you've been used to for so long. And it's doing something with uncertainty because you don't know how it's going to work out. So, even more reason why that intention is important to really remind yourself that there's this purpose behind it. But then it's like, okay, fear aside, what is the first step I could take? How can I put one foot down and then maybe the next foot follows, right? So
Mhm.
it's really just breaking it down into something that's a little more manageable.
Mm. And so, regardless of kind of the job side of things, where you end up with that after burnout, how important do you think that as part of this kind of journey and recovery from burnout, how important do you think it is to really embrace and cultivate the creative parts of yourself in order to have a fulfilling life and recover from, burnout and all the things that go with it?
Mhm. I think it's very important. I think the creative side allows us to explore, to play, as we've been talking about, right? But to also kind of discover what else there could be out there. And once we're in that energy or we're inviting that kind of energy to take over, then I feel that's where the opportunities will present themselves because you'll be in that curiosity state or that openness of just kind of discovering, yes, maybe this is the goal that I want, but what are all the ways that I could get there? And inviting that energy in of saying, oh, let's play. Choose your own adventure. Oh my goodness, do you remember those books as a child? Did you have those? To
Yeah.
choose your own adventure. So it's kind of like now in life, choose your own adventure. What page would you like to go on? Do you
Mhm.
want to go path A or path B? And kind of
Mm.
seeing where that takes you and not ever feeling like it's going to be a right choice and a wrong choice. Let's remove that from our vocabulary in this case, and let's just say, how could we discover? How could we explore and learn along the way? Because I feel like when you have a goal and it's meant for you will arrive there. But the how is the creative journey. That's where we get to have some fun with it. That's where we get to experiment and to explore and to not have to be so linear in our approach.
Mm.
If you're meant to be there, you'll get there. Twists and turns, but you'll get there.
Mm. And embracing that your path is gonna look completely different to the next person's, right? And
Oh,
accepting
yes.
that as and actually valuing that. Because I think we think there's, like, a right way to do it, like you said, right? We think that
Mm,
there's literally an alphabet to go through to get to where we wanna go, but that's really
yes.
not the case.
No. Because that comes back to our need for certainty. We all want that roadmap. We want that strategic plan. And I know that a lot of people in the industry sell that. They sell their action roadmap plan, whatever you want to call it. But it's amazing that they were able to get there with that plan and that strategy in place. But that's where we need to have that nuance of it worked for them. But now you can take the information, but just don't try to copy paste it because we don't
Yeah.
know what their day to day life is. We don't know what their reality is. So take the inspiration from as many different places as you can get it. Great. But don't try to copy paste your life from somebody else's.
Yeah. That's so important. So, obviously, you've been on a big journey for yourself, in terms of the way that you care for yourself, in terms of self-care and sort of empowerment practices. What does, your routine look like, or what sort of things do you get up to?
Mhm. Great
Mhm.
question. Before routine, what I needed to do was place some healthy boundaries in my life. So that helped me to really focus on what I need and self-care. And with that, I discovered that for me, slow mornings are the way to be. I love my slow mornings. Uh, Perhaps it's because I was in an industry for so long where it was like you get up and you go, and, even before 9 a.m., you're doing all the things and you're presenting and you're on the road and you're traveling, so I feel like in this chapter of my life, I appreciate the slow mornings and taking the time to do what I wanna do and not having to feel the urge or the rush to get work done. And I also realized being a dancer, our classes were always towards the evening night. So I operate better and my creative juices are flowing, if you will, later in the day. So
Okay.
it works with that schedule. So I'll wake up and have that slow morning and have coffee and have something to eat and just kind of relax and maybe I'll read a bit. I'll just see how I feel. And then around noon, we get going. So, one day it might look like I sit at my desk and I start doing work, or I have a podcast recording and then I edit and I upload the information, or I go teach classes in the afternoon, right? So, every day looks a bit different, but it is kind of like there's a few hours in the afternoon where I'm productive. Then I take a little break for dinner time. And then evenings, I either have coaching clients or I
Mm,
have dance classes, or I'll do a little bit of work or some interviews as well
mm.
and then try to get to bed at an earlier decent hour. So and then we wake up and do the same thing. For me, what's important is in those morning wake ups that I try not to, and this is definitely a work in progress, but try not to be on my phone first thing.
Yeah.
So hard, it's right there, but we're trying not to like start the day with that and trying not to end the day with that either. So ending the day either with a meditation, my coach, actually my business coach, who's from Australia,
Okay.
Australia, yes. She has these amazing hypnosis meditations, so I'll listen to that before I go to sleep. Um, Trying my best to be in a mindful awareness state when I wake up and when I go to sleep. Because during the day, it will fluctuate. You'll get in your head, you'll kind of get out of your body a little bit, then back into your body for me for dance. But if at those crucial moments I feel of waking up and going to sleep, those are times where it's like self care needs to be at its highest.
Yeah, okay. I love that relaxed morning routine, that sounds luxurious, which I think is really beautiful, and the fact that you give yourself permission to do that on your terms is very powerful. Really love that.
Thank
So for all the women out there who are ready to claim a more fulfilling and empowered life, what powerful questions would you have them ask themselves today?
First, because I always love to start with this. The first question, what are you grateful for? Starting with gratitude, right? What is amazing in your life? From that place of abundance, the next question I would have you ask yourself is where is there room for improvement? Where is it not quite a 10 on 10 in terms of a life rating and category? Is it maybe in my job? It's not as amazing as it could be. Is it maybe in my friendships and relationships? I'd love to be more connected. Is it just in my self love, in my mental health, in my emotional well being? So start to just be curious without judgment. Be curious of what places in my life could use some improvement. So when I look at myself and my lifestyle as a whole, I could be satisfied and fulfilled with all of the components. So the first thing is really to determine where do I need to put a little extra energy? And then the how comes with someone like me who can guide you on how to do that.
Absolutely. So how can people get to know you better, Sabrina, and get a real feel for the work that you're doing?
Yeah, well, I always invite anyone who's interested to hop on a little call with me, 15, 20 minutes. We'll chat, we'll get to know each other, and that's where we can really see if we're a good fit. And I will be so transparent. If I feel like this is something that is out of my scope, or if I have a better coach for you, I will definitely refer you. But of course, I welcome everyone, not only dancers. All are welcome. All creative souls are welcome. You can find me on my website, which is sabrinadelduca.com. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is Duchess Sabrina. Duchess is my dance name. You can
Beautiful.
also listen to my podcast, which is called Get Into Flow. We're on all the major streaming platforms and also on YouTube.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time and energy today, Sabrina. It was lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So happy to be here. What an opportunity. Thank you.
Start reconnecting with your inner creative magic with a powerful 10-minute meditation. This meditation is designed to help you reconnect to yourself, your creativity, and spark your inner wisdom by guiding you to discover your own unique and personal sacred creative space as you tune into your intuition. Please head to samhorton.co/gift.